You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is it is May 1st, 2024. And welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And today we have a special show where we're talking about some local activity here in Sacramento on a class discussing as a Constitution discussion group led by Kaye Lynn, our guest. But before we get to any of that, let me introduce you to the rest of the panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our lower right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have our special guest, Kaye Lynn. She is a facilitator for the Constitution discussion group that we're going to be talking about in this episode. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your guest. So before we get into the show, we've got sort of a new, tradition now of going through a Liberty quote. And this is the first time we've let our guests pick out the Liberty quote for the week. So I'm going to bring that up. And this one is Thomas Jefferson. So this is the second time we've done Mr. Jefferson. And he said that the quote is, "I know no safe depository of the ultimate powers of the society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education. This is the true corrective of abuses of constitutional power." And that's Thomas Jefferson, our author of the Declaration of Independence and third president of the United States. So always a great person to hear from. So, Kaye Lynn, I will leave it to you to tell us what you really find in that wise quote.
The education part. Because if we do not know what our rights are, how are we going to ever defend them? And most people do not know what their rights are. They have, unfortunately, what can I call them? I want to use the word maybe tyrants or the opposition. I think I'll use tyrants. Tyrants started right away. Dumbing us down and making changes to our education, bringing in things that didn't belong, and actually changed the way government is supposed to be. And unfortunately, because the Constitution and the country that was created from it gave so much liberty and economic release to people, that we were prospering. It was a wonderful time, especially that first 50 years, that people were prospering, and other people from other countries wanted to come here. So when they dumbed us down and brought in education and started using public schooling and philosophers from Europe, from Germany, the Kaiser, that was a different kind of model rather than following the interest of the students and tapping into their skills and their abilities. That was to just put everyone in line and make sure that they obeyed authority. So there were a lot of other things. They took out knowledge of how money and how it works out of the curriculum, and they also took away gradually. It was an eroded thing. You know how that works: 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And so it's so gradually that people don't realize it's happening.
Well, you know what it makes me think of too, is the government has taken over more of our education than we've essentially lost a lot of this knowledge.
Yeah,
really what's happening.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But Kaye Lynn, don't you think in that quote from Thomas Jefferson, don't you think he's really expressing his fear of central power?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't quite hear that. Can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, in the quote that we were looking at from Thomas Jefferson, don't you think he was really expressing his fear of central power?
From whom? Who is the fear of central power coming from?
That if the federal government become more powerful in the sense they are centralizing and absorbing power and taking liberties away from the people, don't you think that's what he was
yes. Well, there was another quote that he said, which when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. But when the government fear the people, that is liberty.
That's literally the quote right behind me on the wall.
Really?
It's what the hell it appears. I was going to see if there was a way I could work that in, but you hit the nail right on the head.
Well, because that is our job. That is the hierarchy of authority that the founders put into place. But most people do not know that. They've drank the Kool-Aid, I guess, or bought the idea that the citizens or the man, and I use the word man, including woman, because it's humankind, mankind. There wouldn't be mankind without both genders. So when you say man, that includes women as well. And so if you want to bring up that hierarchy, go ahead and bring it up.
Well, let me before we jump into, maybe that would be a good segue to start talking about your class. But I just want to let the audience know, I'd forgotten to tell them at the beginning, but the other topic we're going to talk about later on in the show as well, we're going to talk about the campus protests that are going on right now too. And it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of constitutional overtones happening in that as well. So this is really good lead into that. So as far as the class goes, so this is the, James, maybe you could bring up the visual. So this is the creation doctrine that Kaye Lynn is talking about, and this is the entire document, and then this is I think the part that she wants to focus on just a little bit more.
Yes,
so.
what the founders were saying is, and what they recognized is, and most of them were Christian, but there's a lot of misinformation out there saying that they were not Christian, but they were. Or they knew at least that there was a creator. So God is the creator. Man is under God. We, the people, when we can get together, that's where the power lies. That's where the sovereignty is. And the people created the states. The states came together as a group and created the Constitution to enclose the people who were administering. In fact, sometimes just recently I thought, too bad they used the word government, because that was a word that traditionally in the old world had meant people or rulers over, rulers over the people. So, maybe they used administrators or flunkies or something else, people would understand that Constitution was created as a box. That there's almost nothing in the Constitution unless somebody goes out and commits a crime like killing somebody else or robbing or some other crime against people or against God's law. None of the stuff in the Constitution is supposed to affect us. There is only one sole purpose for the Constitution, and that is to protect and secure the rights of the people. And yes, they can make a few things, but the rights that we gave them inside the Constitution is limited, very limited, and defined, and and they've been stepping out over it, over the bounds, over the boundaries that were set in place with the Constitution. But for all this time, the 235 years that it's been there, very few people have enforced it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't realize, like I said, the knowledge of the Constitution and our hierarchy in it has been flipped upside down, and we've believed them. So if you move the graphic up a little bit to see the bottom part of it, this is what they want us to believe, that the U.S. government is the
flunkies, you mean?
The source of rights, and then the state is the second source. There's the people, and individual man has practically no rights at all. It's the government that is ruling.
Mm-hmm.
So they've turned it upside down, and unfortunately, most people have bought that idea.
Kaye, can I ask you a question about the definitions of the terms? And first of all, I noticed in the bottom one they're missing the whole God thing. It's completely out of the equation. That's probably done on purpose. So would I be defining man as the individual and people as the collective?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're trying to make the people, the collective, be way more important than the individual.
Yeah, which they do all the time. You're right.
Yes.
Well, let me just jump in real quick, because I feel like we're getting the cart before the horse just a little bit, and I wanted to bring up the actual Constitution discussion group's webpage, so this way that people could know where to go. So it's actually at Constitution-discussion-group- ICT.
Oh, no, don't use that.
Okay.
Don't use
that.
Okay.
Okay. Never mind. They're scrolling at the bottom. There's another way to get there. So
SACCD.org. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So and that's a way you can. Okay. So that'll get you there. And this is the page to the class. And I wanted to give you just a little bit of a sample of what the class looks like as well. So we have a very short video that we've taken from a recent class. And this hopefully will give people just a little bit of a flavor of what goes on in the class. So James, can you play KOL number 1?
This is a really good number of people, and I'm so grateful that you've come out, not only to nullify, but to recognize that a law can be unconstitutional. Tonight, we are doing the 5th in a series.
So you definitely got a lot of people showing up, and that's awesome to think that, this is a grassroots thing, right? I mean, it's like nobody's really making money as far as I know off of this. I mean, they just want to come and become empowered on I guess what they're seeing. And so I guess I wanted to ask you, so how did you get the idea to do this, or what led you into this, organizing this class?
Well, I probably, like most people in the last 4 years, when I was in March of 2020, came home from a business conference. I was in Dallas, Texas, for 4 days, and coming home, I noticed in the airport people wearing masks. Not everybody. I wasn't, and a lot of people weren't, but there were some people wearing masks. I'm thinking, wonder if there's something going on down here, or they just have a lot of stuff in the air people know about that I don't know about. But then I got home and started hearing what was going on, and I would go out to the grocery store, and more people were wearing masks, and all of a sudden here's this mandate. Oh, we're gonna stop the curve of this COVID thing, and it came all over the news. But so that was an introduction, and I going to the grocery store or going to the library or wherever at some point, the library was actually closed. They closed it. You couldn't go into the library, for heaven's sake. So I just wanted to ignore it for a long time. It wasn't until 2021, but there was this thing. What could I do? What can I do? I'm just an old grandma that, what do I know? But I had taken many courses on the Constitution because I'm a history buff and I love looking at different things. And that was the only thing I could think of. What I really felt like was that the lack of education, the lack of knowledge of the Constitution and our relationship to God and that gift, because it really was a gift. I mean, those 56 men that came together and signed that were very diverse men, and had lots of different opinions, but still they were inspired to come up with this document. And it's just this big. It's only this big. It's tiny. It's a tiny little thing, but think of the IRS code now, or some of the other laws that have been passed. Yeah, stacks and stacks of pages. So it isn't difficult to learn this or to know about it, but most people don't. So I decided to just start having some people come into my living room. I thought, well, don't know where else we would go, but so we started with 2 other people. It was my husband and myself, and 2 other people came, and it was really interesting. But and then more started joining, and then we went to the clubhouse in our housing development where we live. There's a clubhouse there, and we could have more people. And in the beginning, we really ended up not talking about the Constitution at all, because this was in July of 21, and people had been locked down and had my granddaughter wanted to get married, and there was no venue that would allow more than 10 people. And she wanted a wedding, where more than 10 people. We ended up clear up in Shasta County before she could find a place outside, and it was outside that she got married. But in the beginning, when we first got together, people just wanted to talk. So we started meeting like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I thought, well, we'll go from 1 to 3. That's a couple of hours. And then it went to 4. And there were some afternoons that people stayed until 5:30 because they were so hungry for the interaction with each other and being able to talk about what they thought, and wondering why are people walking around with masks on? Don't they know that mandate is not law? So there were a few people that we didn't even talk about the Constitution. They just knew it.
Well, Kaye Lynn, one of the funniest things I've always seen with the whole mask thing, and there's a meme going on around this too, but they would tell you, even at the airport, it was the most obvious. They would force everybody to stand 6 feet apart, and then when you got on the plane, you were all sitting right next to each other, and you were still supposed to keep the mask on, which is just absolutely absurd.
It is absurd. It is absurd that people didn't see through that. Yeah. So anyway, I finally, after we grew to a certain number, I met an individual that really was helpful in getting us a location, and that was Sue Frost's husband, Jack Frost, who had started or was president for a while of the SACTAX organization, and he knew somebody at the Epic Bible College, and so we were able to use a room there, and we've been there ever since. So we are meeting the first and third Thursdays of every month. We have this discussion, and it's amazing. I absolutely love it. What I've done, I took a lot of different courses. Like I said, I had probably taken about 10 courses that are just online. So I was not wanting to teach the Constitution myself. I'm presenting somebody else talking about the Constitution. And that goes for about 45 minutes to an hour. Then we discuss anything that was new to the people. And when we first started, in fact, even today, still, there are things that they see and they go, oh, I didn't know that. Really? Is that what it really means? Or, as the person talks about what it is. And so we discuss about what's going on now. It didn't just apply to that day. It applies now. Really, really important, but most people don't know. And we've got a card now that we've been handing around or going to give out to people to talk about, let them know that there is such a thing. Give them that cdg.org, SAC-CDG. On the back of it, it said, had we stuck to the Constitution, we would have no Federal Reserve. We would have no IRS. We would have no Department of Education. We would have no, it just goes on. There's a list about 5, but you could really go on and on and on with all of the ridiculous regulations and overturning of the courts and outreach, way over bounds that the government, who are supposed to be our servants, have taken. And they've turned that graphic upside down and made us think that we're on the bottom and that we have no power, when in actuality, we have all the power, not just some, but all the power. But until the people can come together and realize that, things are going to just keep going on in the same way they're going. So, yeah.
So Kaye Lynn, what do you think do we need to be doing to turn this ship around? Because right now, I think a lot of Americans feel like we are on the Titanic, and we are seeing the iceberg. We are seeing the iceberg out there, and we don't know how to turn the ship away from the iceberg.
Mm-hmm. There are actually tools in the Constitution that are given to us. And most people think we only have the one vote. We go to the polls and we vote every 2 years for a representative and every 4 years for the president. And they think that's about the only voice that they have. But we actually have a whole lot more than that. We have the petty jury, that is supposed to be a privilege, and is one of the places where we as people can tell the government, sorry, that's an unlawful law. We're not going to find this person guilty because they didn't get due process. We have to know what due process is, and they are trampling all over our due process rights.
And essentially what you're talking about there, though, is jury nullification, then? That's what you're bringing in, or?
Yeah, but they hate that word, nullification. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Okay. It's telling them this is not a good law. This is not constitutional law. And then, of course, the grand juries, and there still is grand jury in Sacramento County, but in many states, they've taken that over and they've not allowed grand juries, because grand juries are available to hold those servants accountable. One of the best ones. But what we've really come to understand recently, and this is, I started another group called, for people who, once they know the Constitution, if they want to take more action, they can join this other group where we can help change the culture and actually educate our public servants by giving them notices and affidavits and telling them what the law is, We know what the law is. The law of the land is the Constitution. And we're letting you know that we know what the law is, and we expect you to abide by it. So that is some of the things we're doing.
Kaye Lynn, is this the Committee of Safety Solution? Is that the organization you're talking about? Oh, James, maybe you could bring that up too so people can see that. Thanks. Go ahead.
So that's satcost.us, the website for that one. And it just talks about it's something that the founders used as well, because they were facing a tyrannical government in Great Britain. They had petitioned and asked for redress of grievances for years, and instead of listening, he would come back with worse and worse and worse, until in the Declaration of Independence there was this big list of 28 things that he had done. They ended up taking out the 28th clause when they sent it, because it was the slavery issue, and they couldn't come together at that time, the founders. But so the Declaration of Independence is our document, the people's document, and the Constitution is the document for our servants to keep them in line. They're supposed to stay in that box and not go out of it, or not. And we haven't been good stewards of that Constitution and done the job that we were supposed to do. But we were forgot about it, or were purposely misled and made ignorant about our job.
So it sounds like the main Constitution discussion group is a place for people who are curious and they really want to. They're kind of struggling with the way things are, and they want to know a little more. This is sort of the group to go to once you think you're starting to understand, and you actually want to take a little bit of action and try and make a difference. So,
yes, and to learn more about it, do a deeper dive, and people have various skills that are greatly needed, like Jeff, photographers, videographers, but people who like to do research, people who like to even go to meetings and kind of become like watchdogs. Check out what's going on at your local school board or your city council or the board of supervisors. What are they talking about?
And by the way, let me just jump in real quick. If you're watching on public access, the conversation is still going to go on online. So check out the rest of this conversation there. We're going to talk with Kaye Lynn more about the work she's doing, and also too about some of what's going on the colleges as well, the crisis they're having, and with all these protests. Anyways, check that out online, and back to the show.
Well, I have a question for Kaye Lynn, if I could jump in. Do you have younger people come to the Thursday meetings, the education meetings, people of high school and college age at all? Or?
We really need those. We've had some homeschooling families, young people who are homeschooled, but we haven't really seen any young people college age or even young families. Well, a big part of it is they're probably too busy, raising their family.
Right. Yeah. That does happen. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it would be better for elementary school kids, maybe on a field trip or something to come to a meeting. I don't know what's even possible these days with everything as kind of wacky as it is. So you're attacking this whole the tyranny you see. You're attacking by means of educating your fellow citizens as best you can, and so as part of that, I would think since they're not getting it in the public education system, they're just getting the submit to authority lesson. They got to submit to authority 1A, but they're not getting powers and disabilities of the Constitution 1A. And so it would be nice if somehow that could be turned around so that the younger people would be educated in that respect.
I agree, and that's where we want to bring in that other website, Jason, the We the People 2, We the People numeral 2.us. This is a united call for corrective action, and this is using notices and affidavits, but it's also using things like T-shirts and memes and putting it out there on social media. That and the big question is, by what authority? People need to start asking, by what authority are you infringing on our property rights or our children, and just anything you can think of that out there that they're doing that they have had no authority to do, sending money and being taking the so-called democracy to other countries. We are not a democracy. We are a republic. And so many people have forgotten that and do not even know the difference between a democracy and a republic. So it's really pitiful. But this is a good, using memes and getting it out on things like young people are using these days. And see, I don't use those. I don't know how to do Instagram or what it even means, or Facebook, or Twitter, X, whatever it's called, all the other kinds of things that are out there. But young people, I guess, grew up with that. And so Ron Bouchard, who has started this We the People 2, has come up with this four phases throughout this year. We've done the first phase. This number is that you're scrolling down here is phase 2. There are some of the memes that he's suggesting that be put out there. By what authority? And see that last one, the sole and only reason for government is to secure on our unalienable rights. Every other function is an act of treason. That's pretty harsh, but they need to know that. I think there are a lot of public servants with good hearts who want to be good public servants and who are just as ignorant as we are. They grew up in the same situation, but there are some of them that are purposely just about the whole government has turned into a money-making thing for those who are serving. It was never intended to be that. No man has a right to make that go into government for special, to make himself wealthy. It is a service.
And we've seen a lot of that lately with, a lot of talk about how many politicians go into office. I think they said Dianne Feinstein went into office worth well less than $1 million, and now she's worth, I think the thing I saw was near $100 million or something. So
it's something like that. But she's not dead, though. By the way, just to let you know.
Okay, yeah. Well, recently, but she barely left office, and that's another thing we're seeing too. Some of these people sticking around. I guess the gravy train is that good that they're not going to leave until they kick the bucket.
Yeah.
So why do we keep electing them?
Yeah.
We don't ask the questions, by what authority? And so that is a very powerful question. And so so everybody can ask that. They don't even have to come to the Constitution discussion group or be part of the Committee of Safety to do that. But if they want to, and it's been interesting, I have seen people who've come through the Constitution discussion group and then want to go ahead and run for either central committees. And that's another thing that I didn't bring up before, is that both of these groups are nonpartisan. It isn't about left or right. It's about right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what? So okay. So yeah, I mean, all of these things that I think that your group is trying to do is, I mean, a lot of it sounds quite good, frankly. But the ultimate goal, I believe, would be to put the federal government back into the box, shall we say, where there are boundaries and limits upon them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that is really possible, given how far away from the origins of the Constitution, how far away they have moved? The federal government are involved in so many parts of our lives now. Do you believe it's truly possible to get them back within the limits that the founders intended?
You know, I really don't know. All I know is that I feel compelled. It just was up, you know, it's in my heart. It was to go out and do this. Of course, we would like to see a CDG in every county in California and across the country, as well as a committee of safety. And actually, there is.
And by the way, CDG is Constitution Discussion Group, just in case.
Yes. And there is now one in Solano County, and they actually started first, and they're following us with their Constitution Discussion Group, and the people are loving it. But what I was saying is, I did say that people have come and wanted to, and they said thank you. And instead of becoming part of the Committee of Safety, they felt like what they wanted to do was run for a central committee for office. So that's a good thing. People are, you know, inspired. We all have that inner knowing of right and wrong. Most of us, you know, it's there in our inner being, and we all have interests and things that we can contribute in various ways. So that's
and just to be clear, when you said central committee, you're talking about like running for school boards or city councils and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Or even just either Democrat or Republican central committee.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Even though, you know, we're not talking about partisan politics, because you notice that in the Constitution, parties are not mentioned at all.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, George Washington, in his farewell address, said, "Stay away from parties. They are factions. They just want to divide, and they do that really well." And he said they are your worst enemy.
James Madison also had a quote that we used on the show as well before, where he thought that was the greatest evil of the system was the two parties. If this devolves into a two-party system, so
yeah.
But what would be the alternative, though? Let's suppose that we accept the premise that the two-party system presents some real dangers, and I do agree. Actually, it does. But what is the alternative to the party system?
Oh, what is the alternative to the party system?
Yes.
It's the Committee of Safety. That's what was set up for originally. Every small village and town or colony, they would get together as a committee, and this was before they won the war. You know, they had to strategize, how are they going to do this? Did they even want to do this? But even as late as the 1840s, there were still committees of safety, and it was to send the best people, or the people who wanted to serve from their town or their city or parish, I guess they called them in the East. When they would, it was time to send to elect, they could vet those people and know that they understood the Constitution. And so they would send it on to the next level, whether it was a regional level and then finally a state level. And it was then those people who went to the who got elected, but they had been vetted by the Committee of Safety. So those were the people actually that ended up at the first and second Continental Congress. The first time to, write the Declaration of Independence, second time for the Articles of Confederation. That didn't work. So again, they had to meet, and that's when the Constitution was written. But it was the cream of the crop from the all of the colonies and then all of the states that ended up there. And that's why it was so brilliantly written. Even there were people from all walks of life, all kinds of religions, all kinds of skills, but they were able to come up with that. And I do think that they were inspired. So yeah, that this Committee of Safety, that's why we feel like it's so fundamental. That is one of the tools that the founders gave us. They didn't spell it out in the Constitution, but they were using it and just, I guess, felt that they didn't have to write about that because it was known at the time.
Yeah. Well, it really feels like the point, I guess, the mission of your class is in your safety committee is really to get people to, I guess, become ungovernable by this behemoth government that we got, right? I mean, to understand it better and then to start really figuring out how to unwire some of this stuff, because this is, yeah. Oh, by the way, too, what's that?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say.
And then to get rid of the tyrants, the people who do not have the best interests of the people in mind, but their own best interests. Yes, get rid of them.
Yeah.
Cut the corruption.
Yeah. By the way, I was going to say, too, on that whole two-party thing, I actually flubbed the quote. It was John Quincy Adams that said, there's nothing I dread so much as the division of the Republic into two great parties, each arranged under its leader and concerting measures in opposition to each other. This, in my humble apprehension, is to be dreaded as the greatest political evil under our Constitution. And that's our 6th president of the United States.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So, well, so it sounds like this is really taking off. I mean, you kind of sort of had some of these ideas, they just sort of you rang your Liberty bell during this whole COVID nonsense that happened. And it sounds like it's been growing like gangbusters and growing to more counties. And it's almost like, I wish we could somehow tame a little bit of this energy for the Libertarian Party, because I feel like we're trying to do almost the same thing you're trying to do. But it just feels like, there's just so much inertia out there, but you're overcoming it, it sounds like, and that's really inspiring. Well,
I don't know that we're actually overcoming it. We do have quite a few people coming through the Constitution discussion group. And the other thing that's interesting about that is that, like I said, I've done about 10. I am very careful, though, about which ones I show, because not all the people who are teaching about the Constitution out there in the nation understand that hierarchy. So I have to make sure that they understand that. But I use different ones because everyone that does it emphasizes a different thing, and it makes it really interesting by the way they discuss it, the prime points that they bring out that really touches them. And we learned something new from this presenter that we didn't hear from the previous presenter. So I've had people who have come for 2 years solid, pretty much. They've taken every single course that I've offered. So this one that is on the website right now. We've heard from her before, but she has so much information out there that we would only be listening to her for like 10 months at a time, because we only meet twice a month. In fact, probably we would be able to hear from her for over a year if we did all of hers at once. So we take off little bits and bites of hers, but that's Chris Ann Hall, if you're familiar with her, constitutional attorney, and very dynamic.
Can you give us an example of other like is it Hillsdale College that you might utilize for some of the presentations, or do you have other examples?
National can't remember. NCCS it's called.
Okay.
Now, we can't think of the first C, but it's Constitutional Studies.
Mm-hmm.
But and then there's Institute on the Constitution. I've used their Constitution class, and I just finished their. They have two classes. Another, what they call core, which is all about the jury, and why it's so important for people to serve on the jury. You know, that the attitude that people have, oh shoot, I got called for jury duty, crumb. How am I going to get out of that? Is what their top thing on their mind is. How do I get out of jury duty? And we were, talked to, like, consider it a privilege. Go in there and be able to, this is your voice, make a difference. Treat your fellow citizens the way you would want to be treated. Is that guy, he may have done what he was charged with, but did he receive due process? Did they give him is he here? Was a lot of the evidence squashed, or and look at the law itself. Does the law conform to what the Constitution says? Because they were only given certain powers, and if it's like totally out of line, then he should be found not guilty. So anyway, that was a really powerful course, and people really loved it. We'll probably do that one pretty soon again because it was so powerful.
So is the study group open to anyone?
Pardon me?
Is your study group open to anyone?
Oh yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Nonpartisan. Anybody who wants to come in and learn about the Constitution, because the Constitution belongs to all of us. We are the people. So we do usually start off with prayer. And then we all say the preamble. It's really important, I feel like, to say the preamble. At the very least, we need to know the preamble. And of course, then there's the Bill of Rights. Those are key. Those are our guarantees, so to speak. But are they being guaranteed to us? What about no infringement? How hard is that to understand? And yet, how many gun laws do we have on the books?
It's true. That's a very good point. This is the whole story about the federal government in particular have left the box in which they were placed in the original Constitution.
Yeah.
But now we have had so many interpretations and everything else, misinterpretations, I should say, of the document, that the federal government have gone way beyond its constitutional mandates.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I have a few more questions I wanted to ask you, and we've blown so far past our normal time that we would have spent on the interview because it's so interesting to hear how your class has grown. I think we'll push the campus protests to another show probably because we've got way too much material on that. But I did want to ask you, as far as the growth of your class, is it mainly through word of mouth? Is this or are you guys doing other things to reach out to people to get them excited about this?
Well, it's mainly by word of mouth, but we're holding our fourth potluck because people were so eager to network and meet up with other people and we have a limited time, just 2 hours from 6 to 8 at the college. So I said, why on there every once in a while there is a fifth Thursday. So we started having potlucks on the fifth Thursday, and those have been very well attended. And we either do a short video or have a brief speaker or something, but it's mainly for people to break bread together and get to know each other and where people are located. And so the next one is coming up on May 30th, and it'll be at the same location, only downstairs instead of in a classroom upstairs. And that's open to everyone. And there will be information about that on the website. And the other thing that we did last year and that we are planning on doing again this year is we celebrated Constitution Day. So we called it Constitution Celebration Day, and we had speakers. We had a really fabulous speaker come from out of town. His name was, what's his first name? Loudon. You probably have heard of him.
Rings a bell. I'm trying to remember.
He's from New Zealand. Yeah. Anyway, and some other local speakers as well. And we had music and food and Liberty or other organizations there that wanted to talk about Liberty and what they're doing, Election Integrity Group and Sons and Daughters of the American Revolution, etc. But we're doing that again, and it's going to be at the Folsom Park up on near the zoo in Folsom. And that's
May 30th, right?
May 30th? That's the potluck is May 30th.
Oh, okay.
Constitution Day is actually the 17th of September. We actually had it on the 17th last year. This year is going to be the 15th, which is a Sunday, and from 1 to 4 in the afternoon. And there will be more coming out about that, and you'll start to see flyers hopefully in. And we're going to be looking for sponsors for that because there is a little bit of a cost, but not a huge amount. But we give everybody a little bag. We want the children, we want families to come. So last year we had a little book for children that talked about this making of America. And of course the parents get a pocket-sized Constitution like this one or similar. And then just they can have that bag and decorate the bag and go around and get information from the other not vendors, but other Liberty groups out there. It was a great day. Not a huge amount of attendance, but we're looking for a lot more this year because now we're having a CDG and Committee of Safety in El Dorado County as well. In Solano County, they'll be there to help do this. And I'm hoping that by the time September comes, we'll have the CDG and Committee of Safety in Placer County established. I don't know. I've got my fingers crossed that will happen.
Wow.
Praying. But the thing is, if we don't do anything, we are going down in the Titanic, as Leon said. And but so we don't know if all this effort is going to go anywhere, but we can only do our best. And when we're active, that's when God steps in and helps us out. He's wanting to see us do the work, not just sit there and say, "Oh, can you please come and save us?" We have to be out there and doing the work. And then, and I don't know. Nobody knows when and what time that is, or what he will do to forward. It's his world after all.
Indeed.
This has been a pretty inspiring hearing about the way you guys have grown and reached a lot of people. If somebody was listening to your show right now and they were inspired enough to try to start something in their area similar or to join with you guys, what would it take? I mean, is it something that, I guess, could they reach out to you guys to get help, or would they, is this something that would take a lot of resources?
Doesn't take a lot of resources. They could start in their homes like I did. And I would be happy to let people know what I've done, or, the presentations that I've found that are the best and that are easily accessible. Some of them are free. You just have to go online. In fact, many of these courses are free online. Some of them have costs. I just sign up and pay the cost so that I can then have it to be able to share. Some of them want you to use their presentation exclusively. Just use theirs and get a license to use it. I don't do that. I just share what is best, because it's interesting. They all do such a wonderful job. How can you pick and choose and say, "Oh, this one does a better job than that one"? No, they're all relevant, and each one is going to really speak to the other. But people could do the free ones, or even the ones that have a cost, on their own at home. But I have found that people really do like to come together, because they're feeling so alone anyway, like they're the only one out there thinking that there's something wrong, and they don't know what to do about it. They don't know anybody else to connect with. So that's one of the reasons that they really like coming to the Constitution discussion group. I think that's is a key.
I was going to say, a lot of times, when we go on a journey, we learn some things, and it seems like, you've been on quite a journey for about 4 years or so now, on this journey through Liberty, 3 or 4 years. What's the biggest lesson you've kind of taken from this, watching this all develop and seeing the people that you've touched on this?
That I don't quite know how it has happened. It just has a life of its own, and I'm just doing that. I'm just saying, okay, what does God want me to do next? Or and things just kind of fall into place. I mean, I've found some really wonderful mentors. Like I mentioned, John Darash is a wonderful, not John Darash. He was my first one. He's the first one that I found committees of safety with. But I've gone on to find others. Defending Utah, and Enoch Moore is a wonderful mentor, and Ron Bouchard are just wonderful mentors. And so I just feel blessed to be led in those directions, to find these people and to meet the people who continue to come. I'm meeting way more people than I ever imagined. I thought, what can a little old grandma who just doesn't know anybody do? And now I know a lot of people, and it's wonderful. Or I don't know a lot of people. I've been able to talk with a lot of people, and yeah, I really I'm living a very exciting life at this age. So,
you know, I was just going to say it's interesting that you've been doing this for about 4 years, and I certainly hope you'll keep doing this for another 4 years. And we're getting close to the end of our show, and that kind of brings me to a segue of somebody else who was talking about 4 more years recently, and that's our current leader, our current illustrious leader. And Jane, maybe you could bring up the visual real quick. So Biden recently was at a speech, and this is kind of what we're getting out of our leadership. So I don't think we can really look to these guys to solve our problem. Jane, maybe you could bring up the clip KNP1 so you can hear what we're talking about here, how he just sort of not really sure what's going on.
I would, but that one didn't come through, Jason.
It didn't come through. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. Anyways, essentially, when he was reading, he was just reading his teleprompter, and so he goes on to say, 4 more years, pause. So he actually said it out loud, and the pause was actually supposed to be just something he was supposed to pause for the audience to start chanting 4 more years. Well, the rest of the audience got it, and they all started. It's too bad we don't have that, but but anyways, that's part of the adventure of running a live show. Is we all run some lessons like this. Well, and you guys have, it's funny because, I guess we look to the leadership that we currently have, and it really doesn't look like it. It looks like the captain who steered the Titanic into the iceberg.
Yes.
Yes. and I, boy, I tell you, it really gives me hope when I start seeing people trying to figure out, hey, how can we right the ship ourselves? Because the people in charge surely aren't going to do this. So I really appreciate the work you're doing. And did you have any final thoughts? I guess we'll bring up your web pages again so people can find them here. Kaye Lynn, let's see. You have your Sacramento County discussion group, and that's the starting point. And then if you really get excited, you can go on and participate in the safety committee and also in the organization, We the People 2, We the People 2, it's called, and look for this united call for corrective action as well. So, Kaye Lynn, any last thoughts, any parting thoughts for the show?
I'm just very excited that you're also going to be talking to my colleague, Debbie Red Hat, who's coming on in a week or so.
About 2 weeks, I think. Unless anything shuffles, she should be on the 15th.
Job, and she can talk a lot more about the details of the notices and the affidavits that we're doing, and declarations also work in a way. But we need more people. We need writers, researchers, young people who can, do physical things to, carry things. And so there's room for everyone to come and participate and learn and do activities that do have remedies that actually work. And there is a history of some of those remedies that Debbie is going to be able to share with you. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here. It's been a real pleasure and not as scary as I was thinking.
Well, awesome. And, we hope that, as you guys continue to grow, we'll be able to hear about more of your progress in the future because, we're certainly rooting for you here. But and if you're watching out there, before the next show, think about what you can be doing in your community, because this is the perfect example of somebody who's out there and they're using the tools at their disposal to try and make a difference to move the ball for liberty. So, hopefully these shows will inspire you. So, we've got a big archive of shows of people we've interviewed. So hopefully you can, between now and the next show, you can, start getting your motor running too. But thanks so much for joining us, Kaye Lynn. And until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you all.
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.